everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PartnerUp Podcast. I'm Sergio.
And I'm Kimberly.
And we are on episode
19.
So the reason I keep saying these episodes is because there's actually a milestone I've been trying to get to.
Yeah.
But before I go into it, Kimberly, happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah, so I've learned something new today. So Memorial Day isn't for just fallen veterans. Is it specifically for fallen during service?
Yes. That I'm aware of, it is for just, well, I say just, but typically it is for, servicemen and women who have, were killed in the line
given
of duty.
their life in the line of duty.
Yeah.
So that's important, right? It's like while they were active in service.
Yes.
Okay. Because you come from a veteran family, right?
Yeah, I'm not a military family at all, but my grandpa did fight in World War II.
Man, so he's like OG veteran.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're getting into some nice audio texture here.
Yeah, there's a storm happening right now.
There's a severe thunderstorm happening. So,
and right before we recorded, there was the loudest lightning thunder I'd ever heard.
It literally sounded like a shotgun.
It did. It was crazy. If only we got that on recording, but we didn't.
Nah, but either way, hopefully our power doesn't go out. And if it does, I've already wired the house to get power from a generator. So that'll just be a hassle, but I can get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what did you guys used to do in Memorial Day?
We didn't do anything for Memorial Day because my grandpa was not killed in the line of duty. And it would have been crazy if he was, because then I wouldn't be born.
I mean, he came very close.
Yeah. He was 19. And like, if
Well, hold on.
if any of my family watches this and I'm wrong, you guys can correct me. That's fine. But
maybe we should hold off for Veterans Day.
Okay.
Or 4th of July.
Yeah, one of those. I guess we could talk about his story.
Because I got another story to go with that that I think people will really like, because it's a little terrifying because it's when we first started dating and I was still getting to know you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I won't say his story, but you want to talk about when we started dating?
No. I'll save the dating story with the flag and everything for when we talk about your grandpa on Veterans Day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So Memorial Day, nothing special. Then you guys didn't do anything, cookout, barbecue.
I mean, we were just like barbecue. We barbecued for everything when I was growing up.
I bet. Yeah.
Any excuse to barbecue. My dad.
Mm-hmm.
So the grill was always on a weekend.
Nice. Okay. Well, happy Memorial Day to all those who have fallen in service.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, we are episode 19. And there's a stat that I read out there that says like 10% of podcasts don't make it, or sorry, like 90 or 80% of podcasts don't make it to episode 22. So they're not consistent enough to make it to episode 22. I get it. Honestly,
Yeah.
We're a weekly podcast, and honestly, most of our work is done for us. We have pretty cool tools that let us just chug and put in the video file.
Yeah.
And Kimberly learned to edit for this.
I did.
I mean, she had no prior experience, and now she's editing the podcast in shorts all by herself.
Yeah.
So,
the last one I posted was like, that one was actually all by myself.
You did it. We posted on YouTube and everything.
Yeah, I posted YouTube, did the shorts, all that. We're now on TikTok.
Oh yeah, your brother
runs our TikTok now.
Yeah, we have a TikTok social media manager now.
Yeah, just TikTok though, and we didn't ask. He kind of just told us he did it.
So I mean, if you guys have feedback for us, I know the TikTok people do not like being strung along. I've heard. I got some feedback that, man, I see your reel and like I get into it, and then it gets cut off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll go see the episode. And they're like, no, that's not how it works for us. For us, like, we want a continuation. So I'm like, I don't use TikTok, so I don't necessarily know how to best leverage the platform yet. But maybe we can take that feedback to your brother and see what we can do.
We're not a TikTok family, and everyone keeps telling us to get it. But we've stood strong for it's been a few years now.
Yeah.
It's been out.
Since it come out, I mean, it just...
We've never had it.
It just seemed like a time waster.
I'm already wasting time on Facebook and Instagram.
Exactly.
I don't need another one.
I don't need another social media platform to take up my time.
Yeah.
So I've been trying not to. because all these apps just get more and more efficient at like sucking in your focus. And
oh yeah, the way the algorithm just knows, like when I reach a new milestone with our child, it's crazy. It's like, oh, 4 months, oh, this month, this many months. I'm like, I don't even put anything on social media about her. Like, how do you know?
I can tell you how they do
Did
that.
I talk about it in real life?
Yes, exactly. So
they listen. The phone listens.
Okay, define listening. Okay, how do you think these companies are listening to you?
Well, like I know there was a trend a while ago. Oh, side note, I'm sick, so if I sound different, that's why. I don't know if I mentioned that. I know we started...
Sound better than yesterday.
Yesterday, we tried to record. Our child didn't let us. And also, my voice was gone, so I sound much better today.
Much better.
So there was a trend going on a while ago where, like, you get your husband's phone and you, like, talk to it. You're like, Prada, Gucci, like, Coach, Louis Vuitton, purse. My wife's the best. You know, my wife's the best. Like, and, like... that was a joke. So I don't know actually how it works, but that was the thing for a while, like where you stand near something and you just speak to it.
So it's speech, right? That has to do something.
Yeah.
Right. So the way these companies spy on you. First, I want to define. What would you define as a company spying on you?
They're taking my information, whether that's things I type, things I say, things I do, without my knowledge, and using it without my consent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but obviously, I mean, you're using the platform, so obviously you've given your consent to all these things.
Yeah, technically, like that long thing you scroll past and you just press accept.
Exactly.
But there probably has somewhere in there like we have the right to listen in on your voice whenever we want. I bet you.
But I want to get deeper in the topic, right? So, like, what is spying? Spying means there's someone who is listening to your conversation in full.
My CIA agent, yeah.
Right, and like, there's somebody who's grabbing like what you're talking about, a transcript with context, and then using that to serve you content.
Yeah,
that's what you would consider spying, right?
Yeah.
So, what if I told you that's not how it works? So like, to me,
but how? So I get what you're saying, because I understand when I Google something and then I get an ad on Instagram for it, like that I understand.
Yeah.
But there have been moments where I have just spoken about something to somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I get something on it on my social media. And I'm like, I know for a fact I have not typed this on my computer or my phone or anywhere. I've only spoken word of mouth to it to somebody.
So there was an experiment that a YouTube couple did where they didn't own cats. They've never had a cat. No one in their family has cats. All they started doing was just talking about cats around their house. And all of a sudden, they started getting ads for cat food, catnip, all the cat supplies, right? So for them, they had proven that these companies were listening to you, right? And I think listening and spying are two different things, okay? So for a company to be spying on you, they need that context, right? For anybody to be spying on you, they need to have a context of what you are saying to use, right?
Yeah.
That is not how these companies get all that information from you.
How do they get it?
So what they do is they fingerprint words, right?
So there's like trigger words?
Exactly.
That like your phone will start listening when you say a word?
Your phone is always listening because you have things like, okay, or hey, or can you do this for me? You know,
and I have that stuff like all over my phone.
You have Siri, you have Alexa, you have Google, you have all these different assistants that are wired to listen to that, right? So if they're actively listening, your microphone needs to constantly be picking up audio so that when you say that trigger word, it activates. You don't get that for free. I mean, it has to be constantly listening, right? Yeah. But the concept of context is important because they're not listening to what you're saying. They're listening to what sounds you are making. Does that make sense?
So to them, it's not listening to the words, or it's not listening to me talking. It's just listening to certain words.
Right. So they would have a list of words that people paid them to, right?
It's kind of like keywords on like Google. What is it? Google Ads or Google Analytics or something.
Exactly.
Where like you pay when somebody searches this and your item gets sent to get advertised to them. Say you sell, I don't know, cheese, and you hear someone say cheese, and then like somebody like you guys start getting ads for like cheese delivery or something.
Exactly. So what your phone can do is not just listen for or hey and trigger. What it can do is start trying to see what words you were saying and then make a tally on how many times you say some of those things, and then it'll reference that tally of words you said versus the advertising, and they'll say, oh, this heat map of random words matches this heat map of words, and we can pair it together and deduce that you have been talking about cats. But they don't know that what you are talking about is actually cats. They have this like obfuscated fingerprint for an audio file that they can then go and track against.
So they're not listening to our conversations. They're just using those keywords to take a tally of how many times we say one certain like phrase or word. So they're not spying on us technically because they can't, reiterate they're not getting this podcast for free early, basically. Exactly. What you're saying. But they, we might get some ads for some cat food after this.
Now, whether or not they have the capability to spy, that's a whole different thing. They absolutely have the capability to do that.
But who is they?
It's your phone manufacturers. Whoever
like
has
Samsung,
access.
Apple,
yes,
Pixel.
So, well, your phone. We are Android users, right? Because Android is the superior platform for people who don't want things done for them.
That is another episode, I think, and we should have like your dad or your mom on or something to talk about.
To talk about that. Oh man, it's gonna get heated. But anyway, we are on Android. Mm-hmm. Android is an open source platform developed by Google, right? So it doesn't matter what Android phone you're on.
It's a Google
It's owned
system.
by Google, correct?
Wow. Okay. Even if it's Samsung.
Yeah.
Or an off-brand.
Samsung is the hardware.
Okay.
So your phone, your screen, your flash memory, your hard drive, all of that's in here. Is that the physical device is made by Samsung, but the operating system is Android, and it's built by Android. Okay. Now, Samsung has like their own developers that tweak that because Android is open source, which means anybody can grab it and alter it to their best capability. So Samsung can hire developers to personalize the Android operating system to the Samsung brand.
Okay.
Right? And everybody does this. So you have HTC phones, you have Huawei. Well, actually,
I used to have an HTC phone.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different manufacturers that have different versions of Android. Mm-hmm. Because it's just a computer. Your phone is just a computer. And in a computer, you can install Linux, you can install different operating systems. Yeah. Right?
So could you like change your operating system on your phone if you want?
You can. I used to do that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
You can once you jailbreak your phone, but you get root access.
That was like a thing people did in high school. I remember.
I would do that for money in high school.
Really? Yeah. For money?
For money.
Oh my God, they're gonna arrest you.
I mean, not really. I mean, I was just giving them full access to their phone. And back at the time, it was real popular because you would get access to the hotspot feature on your phone without paying for it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
I
anyway,
was real dumb with technology until you came around. I'm not gonna lie.
So when I say they, right, it's either Samsung or Google because it's Android.
Because we have Android, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Which makes the Chinese phones a little bit more of a risk because the Chinese companies need to fulfill certain requirements by the government of China. So you can bet you that any Chinese phone is going to comply with the Chinese government, and you do run the risk of they getting your data. So for us, we have our Samsung devices. Therefore, the people who can get access to our data is Samsung or Google. Mm-hmm. Because Google is the operating system, Samsung is the hardware.
Okay. Makes sense.
But that is who they are.
Dang.
But the they is different because if you're on an Apple phone, Apple has this closed garden approach where they have a full control of the operating system and the hardware. So they are the only ones who have access to your data. Mm-hmm. So that's why the U.S. government tries to strong arm them into like letting them into locked phones and stuff. But they're really good about like privacy because that's the only thing they have going for them. Okay.
They lock it down because it's just them, both the hardware and the software.
Exactly. But because it's so locked down, you can get a really good experience across the devices.
Just Apple products, though.
Exactly.
Like that's why it works really well with your phone if you have Apple TV.
The problem is once you're in their environment, right? You have like an iPhone and then you get yourself a MacBook. And now these two items work really good together. And you're like, oh, well, now I want to get an Apple TV or an iPad and like have all these things. So now you're starting to pay a premium for the fact that all these things work together.
I love how we both have Macs, but like we're talking about how we like Android better.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason, and look, this is a reason why MacBooks sell. The only reason developers and engineers work on Macs is because to develop on iOS and like Mac platforms,
it has to be
you have to use a Mac product. You can develop Android on a Mac because Android development and Linux and like any sort of development is not constrained to the hardware. Only Mac OS and iOS development and any sort of Apple development is restricted to the Apple hardware.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So that's why everyone has to use a MacBook.
And you develop both.
Exactly. So I'm forced to use MacBook so I can test the iOS.
For all the apps and stuff for work and for your side hustle.
And I would argue developers would stand a better chance if they could use like a regular PC to develop iOS because you would get better hardware, cheaper on a PC to develop. So you'd have more resources to develop with than if you had to go pay for a $3,000 MacBook that'll give you half the specs that the same PC would do.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So they sort of force you, and now they force the market. All developers, any company that wants to make an app has to be on a Mac, and that's how you become $1 trillion company.
Wow. I don't know how much Apple's worth. I don't really pay attention to Apple too much.
I mean, I don't know if it's billion or trillion, but they're up there.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, we can just Google how much is Apple?
I think it's funny. We both use Macs, but we always like integrate all our Google stuff. So we have Chrome.
2.92, so let's just call it $3 trillion.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
There's like a thunder as I said that.
Thunder. They're listening. That was actually Apple being like, ha 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 ha. We have a lot of money.
But funny. Yes. So that is how they control the operating system and they control the flow of the market.
Wow.
Ooh, we got a light flicker.
Oh no. I blinked so I didn't really hear it. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. It's a little light flicker, so we should try to hurry up.
Okay. No, if we can still chat about some stuff. So why did we talk about spying? What was like your motivation for that?
Talk about spying?
Yeah, that's how this all started.
Oh, well, I was talking about like how the Google works. I don't know how we got here. What tangents did we take to get here?
I don't know. That's what this podcast is, guys. Technically, we have a tagline. Have we ever talked about that?
Do we have a tagline? What's our tagline, Kimberly?
It's business, life, and everything in between. So I guess this is the in between.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of business, technically. I mean, we're talking about how Apple built that. Every time we say their name.
I know, for real. Like I said, I actually had an iPhone. I started off, my first like smartphone was a Samsung. Like the pink, really cheap looking. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was like the really cheap looking pink, like first slim phone that wasn't a flip phone. It was pink. It was by Samsung. I got that. I think it was going to high school.
Okay.
And then I got an iPhone. I have bad memory. Maybe like my sophomore year, because like I think my parents would upgrade every year, every 2 years, because that's like the way Sprint worked, because they had Sprint back then. And then when I was in college, I went away for college, and during my freshman year, my iPhone was always messing up, always. I remember being away from home and having to go deal with that. be like, this is so dumb. I'm going to switch to a Samsung because I used to have a Samsung, and I was like, I liked the Samsung. I switched to an iPhone because everyone had an iPhone, right? To be like cool, whatever. And then I think I was like 19 when I switched, and you
haven't gone back since?
10 years, more than 10 years ago. And I've always had a Samsung. I think I had like HTC for a little bit, like in between one of my Samsungs, but like at the time I had mostly Samsungs, but it's always been Android. We weren't even dating.
I know. I think everybody thinks that like I pulled you into the Android ecosystem, but no, you had an Android long before I.
Yeah, like years before we started dating, and yeah, people before would always be like, "Oh, Sergio never let you have an iPhone." Be like, I switched over on my own a long time ago. Is that why we work?
It could be one of the things that was in the checklist.
Yeah.
Before I asked you to marry me.
Because if I was like, oh no, I have an iPhone. Because whenever I ask somebody, this was like a icebreaker question I used to use. Be like, okay, what kind of, like, let's all guess what kind of phone we have. I always play that game at work. And people would always tell me iPhone. Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, because you think I'm
You're like a pink pumpkin spice girl. Of course you're going to have an iPhone.
Yeah. I am a pink pumpkin spice girl who reads fantasy and romance. But with a Samsung, with an Android, not an iPhone. Everyone else I know has an iPhone.
That means you have a brain.
That's mean, but maybe it's kind of true.
So, like, to me, I think, like, what gets me is the restrictions on iPhones. Mm-hmm. So, like,
has this kind of become our iPhone versus Android?
A little bit.
This is like kind of like this has become an iOS v Android episode. Whatever. We've got to commit. Let's do it.
No, I don't want to commit. We can do a whole thing. But I'll end the iPhone rant on this podcast. Right. We wanted to switch to 4K, but we have this multi-camera setup that we do here based on old phones.
Two of them we record on phones.
Two of them are Androids. One of them is an iPhone. Right. Yeah. The reason I decided to land on this is because we have a laptop that's recording all the video files. So all the phones are acting as webcams plugged in via USBs to it. Yeah. Right? And then we're recording then. When I tried to do a couple of test episodes with just straight from the phones recording on 4K because it'll be a higher resolution, because Jadesi was like, you guys need to drop the little phones and get like real cameras.
It's like, you want to sponsor those cameras?
I'm like, look, she's like, even like an iPhone, like an old iPhone will do it. And I'm like, no, the problem is when I tried to do the test episode with the iPhone, I can't just go on to like plug in the phone onto the computer and then go into the phone, look at all the files in there and just pick the video file like you would expect to be able to do and then drop it onto my computer so I can work on it. No, I have to sync my phone to iTunes or like the iCloud or Apple Music, whatever the app is on here, because I don't use it. Yeah. Music, I think is what it's called. Once you sync, you have to download the video or like sync your entire phone to like Apple Photos. And then from Photos, you have to go and find the file from there. There's so many intermediary steps, and all I want to do is just click and drag. And Android just lets you do that. Android acts like a little USB drive with all your files. Yeah. It doesn't overcomplicate it. It doesn't try to railroad you into the Apple system. Because guess what? Once you're in music, now you can subscribe to Apple Music. You can subscribe to their iCloud services. Yeah. So it's a bunch of upsells.
Yeah. We're not on Apple Podcasts, so.
Yeah, we're on YouTube and we're free.
Yep.
Okay, and that's where we're going to end the rant on.
End of rant. To be continued in another episode. Coming to you soon. I guarantee you we're probably going to do that eventually.
But Kimberly, it's been super hot. We're starting summer. Yeah. What plans do you have for us? Because God knows you are the keeper of the calendar.
Well, somebody's birthday is coming up.
So as summer begins, one chapter of my life comes to an end.
Someone's turning the big 3-0 next week. Next week. We should do a birthday episode about you next week.
You know, I thought I'd be a millionaire by now.
You know, there's a lot of things we think of, but I like to think that we pivot in our lives, and God always tells us where to go, and it's whatever is God's will, we're gonna do. That's what I truly believe. So you may not be one yet, But God always has a bigger plan.
And with inflation, I can't even aim to be a millionaire anymore. I have to be a billionaire.
Yeah. But anyways, let's not talk about, depressing things. Summer. So your birthday kicks off summer. You and Ana Pao. Her birthday's also coming up. Y'all's birthdays are hopefully I don't miss anyone's birthday, because I know like this kind of summer kind of starts the trickling of birthdays, and then like the fall's like a bunch of birthdays.
It is.
And then my birthday. So.
It's Ana Pao who has a birthday right next to mine, and then Charlie has a birthday
the following month. Mm-hmm. Our goddaughter's birthday is also in June.
That's right. She is in June.
Yes, June.
Is it late June?
Yeah, it's like latest June. Yeah, okay. And then we have her sister, and then we have Eden, and then Patty and Alondra. And just like the birthdays, just
all of my parents, like my mom, my dad, my godmother,
my dad,
like the kids, and I remember when I was
like a waterfall, what is it, snowball? Like birthdays start with you in June, and then they snowball
through to the end of the year.
Yeah,
I remember when I was in college, I'd be like, well, my recovery period is over, because like as soon as July or September hit, it was my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday, my sister's birthday, and then followed by Thanksgiving, Christmas.
And then you started dating me.
And then I started dating you. So then, in January or February is Valentine's Day. So then like spring break in March, that is when I started financially recovering from the birthday era.
Yeah. Because like now, I think Aurelia is going to be lucky, because her birthday, it's hers and your grandma's. Mm-hmm. And then it's my brother's. My brother's like the only February besides like Elizabeth.
Oh, well, and he lands like right on the holiday.
Yeah. And then my mom's. Brandon's in March. So yeah, like we know there's a birthday every month for people we care about.
Yeah.
There's no month we're safe.
Absolutely not. That's why I just wanted Audelia to be born on September. I'm like, let's just keep it constrained to that same month.
And it's funny because like whenever I tell people you say that, they're like, he's crazy. No, they need to be spread out. And you're like, no, I just want the hit all at once.
Because eventually we can just like do a bundle birthday and like hit a cruise up or something, go travel to some destination, have a big party, and just celebrate all the birthdays.
Well, when and if we have another kid, we can maybe have their birthday be in September. But we'll see. Like I said, it's always God's plan. So anyway, summer. We didn't even get to the summer part. So we're going to be throwing you some little shindigs, a friends hangout, a family hangout, and then you, me, and Aurelia. We're going to do something, just little things. We don't really have like huge plans. We plan to travel for Aurelia's 6th month for our first like family road trip. That's not like to go visit family. Like we're going to go on a trip together to the Texas State Aquarium, which I'm really excited about.
That's right.
Yeah, because she loves aquariums right now. That's like the only like television I'm willing to let her like sit and watch is aquariums. Whether it's like a real aquarium or like a painting aquarium.
I put on the BBC.
Like the Nature Channel.
The Nature Channel.
That's what she watches.
And there's like a British dude saying, and then here you can see the fish. It's going into the billows of the reef. And she was just like entranced on it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm willing to show her, like consistently. Not for like hours at a time, but for just a little chunk of time we need.
I know you're concerned about screen time, right?
I am very concerned about screen time.
I'm concerned about attention span, right? So
maybe that's more what it is that I'm concerned about.
I don't necessarily think that the problem is that they're staring at a screen for too long. I think it's like if they're looking at those short, like 3-second videos and then next, 3-second videos and then next.
Like us.
It like starts training their focus to just be that long. And then that's the detriment. But if you put on like a long like Nature Channel, it holds their attention for that much longer. And when I was a kid, that's what I did. And I think I turned out okay.
I read this thing how you should make television a social event. So like you shouldn't ever like put them in front of the TV and leave them alone for hours. You should sit with them, or you should like have them with you, or like have them together with like their cousins or their friends or something. So it can be like a social event. Mm-hmm. The way so
that everybody can talk about.
So you talk about it. So like you're interacting with people with you, because if they're just alone watching TV, that's going to be like their only understanding of.
So what you're telling me is having you two babysit your kids is only okay if you have 2 or more.
I mean,
at that point,
not
they can.
like my friends have told me that like YouTube Kids can be kind of dangerous because like there'll be content on there and they'll be like, they'll see what their kids are watching and it's like, you should go like hurt yourself or go hurt your parents.
All random.
Like, yeah, like just in the middle of a children's video that will be there. So like, I'm afraid of that because as you know, I'm afraid of the big bad internet because I grew up in the time where I had unrestricted access, just like you, to the internet. Then I'm terrified of her, like even seeing like a little scrape of what we saw when we were kids growing up.
Well, I think things have gotten out of hand from then. Like back then, you had to be technically savvy to upload things to the internet.
Yeah.
Right. So you didn't just have garbage floating around for the most part. You still had really like bad side of humanity on the internet.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just like straight up malicious intent.
Yeah.
That was like freely floating. You know, it was more like uncensored articles, uncensored videos of like things that were going on in the world.
Yeah.
That you would just see. And now it's definitely a whole lot of just brain rot because it's really easy now to upload anything to the internet.
Yeah. There's no like skill needed, obviously.
Yeah. Look at us just putting up a podcast once every day or once a week.
Yeah.
You know, no skill.
That's my concern with it. And like, no judgment to anybody who like uses that a lot because like, you know, there may come a time where like I need to utilize it more, especially as she gets a little bit older. But because right now I can entertain her. I can sit her down in her high chair and like I can just have her watch me do stuff and like she's entertained. Mm-hmm. So, but I just wonder as she gets older, like how she's gonna, how that relationship's gonna be. But I think the attention span is more what my concern is.
I loved watching like the Mythbusters, watching like Animal Planet, the most extreme.
We have that on Plex, yes.
Yes, the top 10 most extreme, and I remember I would record it on VHS and I would take it to school.
That. I love that
on like Fridays, and we'd get to watch the most extreme. Like,
yeah,
that's how I learned a lot about just things that didn't like came in the school curriculum. Like I would just watch that. And
I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that's how I learned that the Earth plate tectonics, they move at a rate as fast as your fingernails grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my problem with authority started. So I remember I
took that personally.
Yes, because I went to school after learning that fact. Uh-huh. And we were learning about plate tectonics, about like how there are different plates on the Earth and like they move around because of the convection currents inside the Earth's mantle.
Yeah.
And it causes the plates to move. And that's what like does earthquakes, makes mountains. Eesh.
What?
That was a very bright lightning. I thought there was going to be a large strike. But anyway, so we're learning about all these things. Uh-huh. And then I think I'm going to contribute to this lesson. Say, Miss, I raise my hand. Little Sergio raised my hand. And I go, did you know that the plates move at the rate that your fingernails grow? And she looked at me and goes, what? That doesn't sound right. And then she kept going. And I was like, no, I'm serious.
Just shot you down.
Yeah. And she just kept going. I'm like, okay, fine. And then that's not where the trauma ends, Kimberly. The trauma continues. The next couple of days, she comes back to it and goes, hey, I remember. So, and I remember this so vividly because our desks were aligned around the overhead projector, right? So I remember the lights were off. We were in the overhead projector, and she was like writing.
You're like going back to that moment.
Yes, I can remember it clearly. And then she goes, "Oh, by the way, somebody had mentioned, I don't know who it was, about the plate tectonics that they move." And then I go, "At the rate of your finger, like their fingernails grow." And she goes, "Yeah, that." And then I go, "Yeah, it was me. I told you." And she looked at me and goes, "That doesn't sound right." She's like, but whoever said it, they were right. And then she just kept going. I was just, gah! And since that moment forward, I've had a problem with authority.
How old are you?
This was on the 5th grade.
Makes sense.
In Milam Elementary.
Makes sense. I can see that being little Sergio's origin story.
From that point forward, I'm like, these teachers don't know anything.
Wow. Well, anyway, we keep going off on tangents, but that's okay. So we're going to an aquarium in the summer for only a 6 month. That's our plan anyways. And then hopefully a trip to Monterrey. and thrown in there. Maybe Aurelia's first flight, depending when we get our passports back. But nothing too crazy. The past few summers, we've gone on like big trips. Or past few years, we've gone on a few big trips. But this year, not a big trip. Our big adventure was having a child.
That is true.
That's been our biggest adventure.
We got cleared by the doctor to, like, the biggest worry, she said, was measles.
But we'll probably get it here.
And she's like, yeah, well, you know, right now, as the climate stands, you're probably more likely to get measles in this country than any other country.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to go ahead and go out, like, you guys can go ahead and start going to Mexico or Canada.
And since we drive a lot of places, she says that's even better than flying.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we should be good to go. Just like a 10-hour drive down to good old Monterrey.
Yeah.
And Monterrey. Why did I say it like that?
Monterrey. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not excited about the heat because I remember going in the summer 2 years ago when we got married. And that was brutal. And we're going last year too when we told your family over there that I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, it was so hot. Like,
you're going closer and closer to the equator.
Oh my God. Like, I remember thinking that, oh yeah, it's going to be that hot. No, like you're like in a dome, like a reverse dome of just heat. Like
a bowl, if you will.
Yeah. Yes. A bowl of heat. That's
okay. But like, people don't know why it's a bowl.
Because of all the mountains.
Because of all the mountains.
I didn't tell you something that happened when it comes to Monterrey. So my book club friends, I always talk about like you in Monterrey, right? And one of the girls sent me up someone's bumper sticker and it had Monterrey spelled like the Mexico one. It had the, what is it? Cerro de Silla? No. Mountain on it. Like the picture, and that was the bumper sticker. And she sent me a picture. She's like, oh, Kim, this reminds me of you because you always talk about it. And then I sent them the picture from our wedding where that was in the background.
Oh, yeah?
The picture of the background, yeah.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, that's a famous mountains there. It's in my wedding, one of my wedding pictures, and I sent her the picture of us on our wedding day.
Ah, that's so cool.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that story. It happened like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so for everybody who doesn't know, Monterrey...
Not to be confused with Monterey, California. That's
exactly.
Different.
So double R means it's in Mexico. Yeah. Single R means it's in California. Monterrey is like where three mountain ranges collide. So to get in and out of Mexico, you have to like go around
a lot of
the mountains to get in to the Monterrey city.
Yeah.
So what that causes is a couple of things: heavy floods. Right, so
because they'll go down
because the water just goes down into the city and in turn goes into the river, el Rio Santa Catarina, and it causes like just all the heat to sort of
stay,
and circulates inside because it's not even like it's weird because heat rises, so you'd expect it to just like keep it cool, but I mean it really doesn't. Stuck. It just gets stuck there, and it gets dry, and it's just hot.
It's like you can't even breathe sometimes when you're there. Like it's like, oh my God.
And what it also does is it sort of shelters from weather.
But also sometimes it gets the weather trapped. Because I remember when we got married in July there, and every day, like the week we were there for the wedding, it rained except for our wedding day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh my gosh, I was so scared because it was raining the day before, and I was like, Lord, please, like. And I remember. It was on a Friday, and everyone gave me a hard time. Why do you want it to be on a Friday? And I was like, I don't know. I just have a feeling it should be on a Friday. Only day it didn't rain. It rained like a tiny bit in the morning, but like at the exact same time we were leaving the next day on Saturday, we were just like recovering in the hotel. It was pouring rain.
I remember us having to take because I hadn't seen you in your dress.
Yeah.
So we did the whole thing where we see you in the dress.
The reveal.
And then we go out to take photos.
Yeah.
And we went to the Paseo Santa Lucia to take photos.
I thought we went to
the industrial park.
Yes.
Yeah. And we were taking photos there, and because it had rained the day before, it was super humid.
It was
hot.
It was hot.
And I was in a full tux, like the whole thing.
I was in a dress with like openings, so it wasn't as bad.
Oh my God. It was really bad for me.
Yeah.
I remember like leaning over a railing, being like, please, one breathe.
But those pictures are bomb. We need to print some of those out and put them up.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, those are summer memories, I guess, kind of, you know? And we don't have too many summer plans because maybe we'll go to like a lake, go to the pool, Probably go to some pool parties eventually once Aurelio's 6 months. But I mean, I'm excited to have summers with a kid now. Because
you just want an excuse to go to the water park.
I love water parks. Because when I was a kid, my parents took me to Super Splash. And you
don't mean Schlitterbahn?
No, Super Splash. Those who know. If you know, you know, right? That's the saying. Because Super Splash was the best. It was probably not that great, right? Whatever. But from my memory as a child, the best water park there ever was. But it probably was just whatever. But I remember going with my family, and that was some of the best memories. Except something happened one time when we were gone. And my brother stayed home with my dad, and we had to leave. But that was another thing. But it was so fun, and my parents would just take us because it was so close. It was so close to the house. It's where the HEB park is now, where the Dodos used to play. That's where it was. That's so close to my parents' house. Okay. So my parents would just take us all the time. I don't think we had season passes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember going a lot, and then they shut it down because whoever bought the park didn't like Edinburgh, and I'm like,
I get it.
I don't. I was so upset. They took away my Super Splash. So it got torn away from me. And then as going into my teenage years, imagine if there would have been there when I was a teenager. I would have been there all the time. And so now as an adult, I'll use any excuse to go to a water park. Because 2 years ago when our godson was...
Or a water slide in general. We went on the cruise with your family.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, water slide, JP, let's go.
Me and my brother probably feel the same way about Super Splash because he was even younger than me. So maybe he doesn't even remember. But yeah, him and I was going being like, hey, the water slide's for adults too. Because I think he was 23 and I probably was 27 when we went on the cruise. And they're like, yeah, anybody can go. And so him and I would go in line with all the little kids to go on the water slides. That's why I want to go. That's the only reason I would go on a Royal Caribbean cruise because they're known for having the best water parks on the ship.
Yeah?
Yeah. Our next cruise should be Royal Caribbean that has a water park.
I'm going to take my mom on a cruise and get Essie too.
Because they're terrified. I want to go on a water slide on the ocean.
We already got Essie to overcome her fear of airplanes.
Yeah.
Right? By, what is it? Exposure therapy?
Yeah.
So now we got to get them out in the open sea.
Oh, cruises are awesome. But yeah. So I want to just be able to go to the water park with our child. But she needs to be a little bit bigger because right now she's so tiny right now. Mm-hmm. So next summer, watch out. We're going to be at the water park. We're going to get season pass. I want you to know. To the one that's close by here.
What is it? The Texas Typhoon?
Something like that,
Typhoon, Texas, something like that.
Yeah, I'm in
Pflugerville.
We're getting a pass so we can go.
They just opened the new big one in Round Rock that's indoors.
They opened that one a few years ago.
And they have one that there's a slide that apparently goes indoors and then
it's the largest indoor water park in the United States. And we've never been.
No, it's right there.
We should go next time. We can and you could stay. It's a hotel too. So we don't have to come home. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of friends who on Snapchat, they went and they posted a bunch of stories. Got super drunk apparently. So looks like it's a fun vibe.
Yeah. Summer. I'm so excited.
All right. Well, I guess that'll wrap it up for us today. Hopefully we'll have a great summer, but we'll get back to you guys on episode
20. Yeah.
So thank you guys for coming for another episode of the PartnerUp Podcast. I'm Sergio.
And I'm Kimberly.
Bye.
Bye.